Hello, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a question that's actually kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. Why does life live where it does? We're diving deep into the science of biogeography.
I mean, have you ever really stopped to think about it? Why are kangaroos only hopping around Australia? Why are lemurs only in Madagascar? Why aren't there polar bears hanging out in Antarctica? It seems random, but trust me, it's not an accident. There is a whole science dedicated to solving this exact mystery.
Okay, so let's get right into it. The best way to think about biogeography is like it's a giant detective story. The entire planet is our crime scene, and every single plant and animal is a clue, a piece of a puzzle that stretches back millions and millions of years.
And our lead investigator in this whole thing? Well, it's biogeography itself. Its mission is to explain the distribution of all life, not just where it is right now, but the epic story of how it got there. You can think of it as the ultimate rulebook for where life can and cannot exist. Now, every good detective needs a strategy, right? Well, biogeographers focus their investigation on two fundamental lines of questioning. They look at the case from two very different, but as we'll see, deeply connected angles. First, they go full-on cold case detective. They dust off the history books, digging into the ancient past to understand the massive events that shape the world we see around us today. This whole approach is called historical biogeography. It's all about origins and journeys. It's asking the big questions. Where did a species originally come from, and what incredible saga of migration and evolution brought it to where it is today? And the clues they look for are, well, they're massive, planet-altering events. We're talking about continents literally drifting apart and splitting populations in two. We're talking about huge mountain ranges rising up, creating new barriers. And of course, massive glaciers advancing and retreating, forcing life to either move or die out completely.
So here's the bottom line. Historical biogeography is all about the backstory. It's the how we got here part of the story, focused completely on the past distribution of life.
But the past is only half the picture. Any good detective knows you also have to analyze the current scene. You need clues from what's happening right now. And that's exactly what builds the other half of our case.
This brings us to our second line of inquiry, ecological biogeography. Now, this branch isn't really concerned with ancient history. It's focused entirely on the immediate, present-day factors that determine whether a species can actually survive in a particular spot.
This approach asks some very practical, very immediate questions. Is the climate right? Is there enough water? And is the soil the right type? Can the species actually handle the local temperatures? And this is a big one. Can it compete with all the other organisms that are already living there? So, if the historical part was the backstory, then the ecological part is the reality check. It is all about survival in the here and now, and it explains the present distribution of life.
So, when you put it all together, you see how it works. A species might have an ancient, historical claim to a place, but if it can't handle the current ecological demands, if it just can't survive the conditions on the ground today, then it won't be found there. You absolutely need both pieces to solve the puzzle. Okay, so now that we have our two main approaches down, our detectives can pull out some more specialized tools from their kit to really zoom in on specific kinds of evidence. First up is phytogeography. That phyto part tells you everything you need to know. It's all about plants. This field is dedicated to understanding the distribution of everything from the tiniest mosses to the most massive redwood trees. And on the flip side, you can probably guess, we have zoogeography. This is the animal equivalent, tracing the patterns of animal life all across the world's continents and oceans. And then there's one of my personal favorites, island biogeography. Now, this isn't just about tropical islands with sandy beaches. It applies to any isolated habitat, like a lone mountain peak or an oasis in the middle of the desert. These places are like incredible natural laboratories for studying life in miniature. I mean, think about the Galapagos Islands and Darwin's famous finches. That's a perfect real-world example of these principles in action. And what's really cool is that the rules here are fascinatingly simple. The number of species you'll find on one of these islands is really just a delicate balance. It depends on how many new species arrive, the immigration rate, versus how many go extinct. And that balance is controlled by two main things: the island size, bigger is almost always better, and its distance from the mainland. The closer, the better. So, after all this investigation into the past and the present, you might be asking yourself, okay, but why does any of this matter? Well, it turns out
This detective work is more critical right now than ever before.
This leads us to our final and maybe the most important branch of all, conservation biogeography. This is where we take everything we've learned, all those historical clues, all that ecological data, and we apply it to a very modern, very urgent mission.
And what is that mission? It's all about protection. This science is what informs us on the best ways to design nature reserves, how to protect the habitats of endangered species, and how we can manage Earth's incredible biodiversity in the face of all these modern threats.
So let's quickly go over our detective's case file one last time. Our main approaches are historical for the past and ecological for the present. Our specialized tools are phytogeography for plants, zoogeography for animals, and island biogeography for those isolated habitats. And it all comes together in conservation biogeography, which puts all this knowledge to work protecting our planet.
And that leaves us with a pretty profound forward-looking question. Because all those rules we've just discussed, they're being rewritten right now by forces like climate change, forcing species into new places. The map of life is being redrawn right before our eyes. So biogeography gave us the clues to understand the past, but the real mystery now is how we're going to use them to protect the future.